The gap between China's smart cities and America's isn't just noticeable, it's embarrassing. China has launched over 800 smart city pilot projects and poured nearly $26 billion into them in a single year. Meanwhile, the biggest smart city grant the U.S. government ever offered was $40 million to one city. You heard that right. One country is rewriting the blueprint for how cities function, and the other is still filing permits. But this isn't just about money, it's about two completely different visions for what a city should be, and only one of them is actually being built. And it starts with a city you've probably never set foot in, but one that's already living in the future: China's master plan. The city is Shenzhen. And the first thing you need to understand is that what's happening there didn't happen by accident. There was no Silicon Valley-style garage moment, no scrappy startup that stumbled into a breakthrough. This was planned, methodically, strategically, from the very top. In 2012, the Chinese government officially launched its National Smart City Pilot Program, not a suggestion, not a grant competition, a directive backed by centralized funding, coordinated across more than 25 government agencies and embedded directly into the country's 5-year plans. The policy blueprints that steer everything from infrastructure spending to industrial strategy for the next half-decade. By 2019, China had rolled out over 700 smart city pilot projects. By 2020, that number had crossed 900, and the spending matched the ambition. Smart city investment in China hit roughly 2.4 trillion yuan in a single year. That's north of $330 billion. Not spread across a decade, not a projection, 1 year. But here's what makes this different from anything you've seen before. This isn't one city experimenting with a traffic app. This is an entire country wiring itself for the future, city by city, system by system. Shenzhen became China's testing ground for autonomous vehicles and AI-driven city management. Today, it has over 1,300 companies dedicated to autonomous driving alone, driverless buses running through its business districts, and an app that lets residents handle over 95% of all government services from their phone. Hangzhou became the birthplace of the city brain, an AI system that took over the city's traffic lights and cut emergency response times in half. And Shanghai is building what officials are calling a quantum space-time intelligent city, the most comprehensive smart city framework ever attempted anywhere on Earth. Each city has a role. Each city has a mandate. And behind all of it sits a government that doesn't need to ask for permission, hold a town hall, or wait for the next election cycle to break ground. But if you think this is just about China being ambitious, wait until you see what's happening on the other side of the Pacific. Because that's where the story gets uncomfortable. America's 1,000 plans for one problem. Now picture this. While China was rolling out a coordinated national strategy across hundreds of cities, the most ambitious smart city initiative the United States federal government ever launched was a competition. In 2015, the U.S. Department of Transportation announced the Smart City Challenge. 78 cities applied, 7 made the finals. And in the end, one city, Columbus, Ohio, won a grand total of $40 million. That's it. One winner, one city, $40 million. China was spending that kind of money on a single intersection. And that challenge, as promising as it sounded, was basically where federal ambition peaked and flatlined. Because unlike China, the United States has no national smart city strategy. There's no master plan, no centralized directive telling cities what to build, how to connect it, or when to have it done. Instead, you've got thousands of local governments, each with their own budget, their own political priorities, and their own aging infrastructure, all trying to figure it out on their own. Take New York City. On paper, it's the most powerful city in the world. In practice, its average public school building is 66 years old. Its subway system was designed over a century ago, and many of its city agencies still run on software systems that don't talk to each other. San Francisco, the backyard of the biggest tech companies on the planet, banned facial recognition, debated smart streetlights for years, and is still stuck in community engagement workshops trying to figure out what a digital city strategy should even look like. And Los Angeles didn't even convene a Smart City Committee until 2019 and titled its plan Smart LA 2028 as if 9 years of runway was a sign of urgency. You start to see the pattern. It's not that American cities don't want to be smart. It's that the system they exist in, the layers of regulation, the fragmented funding, the political cycles, the public resistance makes it almost impossible to move at the speed this kind of transformation demands. And nowhere does that gap show up more clearly than in how people actually move through these cities. The roads that think versus the roads that don't. If you live in Hangzhou, your commute home tonight will be managed by an artificial intelligence. Not suggested by one, managed by one. The system is called City Brain, and it was built by Alibaba in partnership with the Hangzhou municipal government starting in 2016. It connects to traffic cameras, GPS systems, vehicle sensors, and traffic lights across the entire city. It processes over 120 million pieces of data every single day. And it doesn't just watch, it acts. It adjusts traffic signal timing in real time based on congestion patterns. It reroutes buses. It detects accidents with over 92% accuracy the moment they happen. And when an ambulance gets dispatched, the system clears a path through every intersection along the route, automatically, no human dispatcher needed. The result? Emergency response times dropped by an average of 7 minutes. Vehicles move through intersections 15% faster, and Hangzhou went from being the second most congested city in China to the 35th. Not over a decade, in under 2 years. Now think about what your commute looks like. If you live in Los Angeles, you already know. The average driver there lost 137 hours to traffic in 2024 alone. That's nearly 6 full days of your life gone. Not to work, not to family, not to rest, not to anything that matters. Just sitting in your car watching brake lights, breathing exhaust, and wondering how this is still your reality. And the infrastructure managing that traffic? Most of it was designed decades ago. There's no unified AI system coordinating signals across the city. No real-time data platform linking every road, every bus, every emergency vehicle into one brain. What LA has instead is a patchwork individual systems that don't talk to each other, managed by agencies that don't share data with each other, funded by budgets that barely cover maintenance, let alone transformation. And it's not just LA. Across the United States, traffic infrastructure operates like it's still the 20th century. Cities react to congestion after it happens. They study it. They commission reports. They propose solutions that take years to approve and more years to build. Meanwhile, Shenzhen has already opened nearly 1,000 kilometers of roads to autonomous vehicle testing. It launched the country's first fully driverless public bus line. And it's home to a fleet of 38 autonomous trucks running cargo at one of its major ports. No human drivers, no downtime. The gap here isn't about who has better engineers. It's about who lets their engineers actually build. In China, a traffic system goes from concept to citywide deployment in months. In the US, a single intersection upgrade can take longer than that just to get permitted. But transportation is only part of the story. Because the real shift isn't just about how you move, it's about how you pay for everything once you get there. One app to rule them all. Walk into any store in Shanghai, a restaurant, a pharmacy, a street vendor selling dumplings off a cart, and pull out cash. Watch what happens. The vendor will look at you like you just handed them a floppy disk. Because in China, cash is basically dead. Nearly 970 million people use mobile payments. Over 90% of all consumer transactions run through 2 apps, Alipay and WeChat Pay. Combined, those platforms processed more than $80 trillion in 2024. You scan a QR code to buy groceries. You scan one to split dinner with a friend. You scan one to pay your electricity bill, your hospital visit, your metro fare, all from the same app that also holds your ID, your insurance, and your investment portfolio. This isn't just a payment system, it's an entire economic operating system, and the city runs on top of it. Every transaction generates data. That data feeds into city planning models, consumer behavior analysis, credit scoring, and public service delivery. When Hangzhou wanted to figure out which bus routes were underperforming, it didn't commission a 6-month study. It pulled transaction data from Alipay and had the answer in days. When the government needed to distribute emergency relief funds during COVID, the money hit people's digital wallets within hours. No checks in the mail, no processing delays, no bureaucracy. Now try doing that in the United States. You've got Apple Pay, Google Pay, Venmo, Zelle, PayPal, Cash App, and about a dozen others, none of which talk to each other. Your bodega takes one? Your landlord uses another? Your city government still wants a paper check? There's no unified digital payment layer. No single ecosystem linking purchases to public services to city infrastructure. And the reason isn't technical. The technology exists. The reason is structural. American payment systems are built on competition between private platforms, each one guarding its own data, its own users, its own market share. The banking system resists disruption. Regulators move slowly. And the consumer, caught in the middle, ends up juggling 5 apps to do what a street vendor in Shenzhen does with one. The result is a country where the technology to go cashless already exists, but the will to unify it doesn't. And no one in power seems particularly eager to change that. That fragmentation doesn't just slow down payments. It blinds cities to the data they desperately need to make smarter decisions. Which brings you to the most uncomfortable comparison of all: how each country handles safety. The eyes that never blink. This is where the conversation gets tense. Because China's smart city infrastructure doesn't just manage traffic and payments. It watches people, everywhere, all the time. There are an estimated 540 million surveillance cameras in China, more than half of all the cameras on Earth. 8 of the 10 most surveilled cities in the world are Chinese. Many of these cameras are equipped with facial recognition, and they're not just catching criminals. In Shenzhen, if you jaywalk, your face appears on a giant public screen before you've even reached the other side of the street next to your name and a partial ID number. Police in some cities wear AI-powered smart helmets that scan faces in real time. And through overlapping programs like Skynet and Sharp Eyes, the government has built a surveillance web that stretches from megacities all the way down to rural villages, with residents sometimes able to watch their own neighborhood feeds from their living room TVs. The results? Hangzhou's congestion ranking didn't just drop because of traffic lights. It dropped because the entire city is monitored, modeled, and optimized constantly. Emergency dispatches aren't just faster, they're predicted. Crime in monitored areas trends downward. The system works. But here's the tension you can't ignore. It works because the government sees everything. And in a country where there's no independent judiciary, no free press, and no meaningful public debate about privacy, that power has no check on it. The same cameras that catch jaywalkers have been used to track dissidents, monitor ethnic minorities, and suppress protests. You don't get the efficiency without the exposure. That's the deal. Now look at the American side. San Francisco banned facial recognition outright. Oakland followed. Cities across the country have pushed back against smart streetlights, predictive policing, and automated surveillance, not because the technology doesn't work, but because the public doesn't trust how it will be used. In San Diego, a smart streetlight program was shut down after police were caught using the cameras to monitor Black Lives Matter protesters. So you're left with a paradox. One country builds the most advanced public safety infrastructure on Earth, but asks its citizens to hand over their privacy to get it. The other has the technology to do the same, but its own people won't let it. But that paradox was just the beginning. The same tension runs through every layer of how these cities handle data. The city that talks to itself. In Hangzhou, every city department feeds into one system. Traffic, utilities, health records, business registrations, emergency services, tax filings, all of it flows through the city brain. If you're a resident, 97% of all government services are available to you online. You don't visit an office. You don't stand in line. You don't fill out the same form for 3 different agencies. You open an app, and the city responds. That's not a pilot program. That's not a beta test in one district. That's the whole city. And it works because every department shares data through a single unified platform. No silos, no turf wars, no legacy systems from 1994 blocking the pipeline. Now think about what happens when you try to get something done in an American city. If you've ever dealt with the DMV, you already know. But it goes deeper than that. In New York City alone, dozens of agencies operate on separate databases that don't communicate with each other. You can report a pothole through one system, a noise complaint through another, and a building violation through a third, and none of those reports will ever cross paths. The city's own 311 system runs on infrastructure that was built piecemeal over decades, stitched together with workarounds and duct tape. And New York isn't the exception. It's the norm. Across the country, city governments run on aging software, disconnected platforms, and departmental kingdoms where sharing data feels like surrendering territory. The federal government doesn't mandate interoperability. There's no national data standard for municipal services. So every city reinvents the wheel badly, and the residents pay for it in wasted time, missed signals, and services that feel like they were designed in a different century. In China, the data flows because the government commands it. In America, the data stalls because no one has the authority or the political will to force it through. And that bottleneck costs you every single day. Then came the question that separates these two models completely. What happens when you need to build something new from the ground up? Built from dirt, wired from day one. If you want to understand the difference at its most extreme, look at Xiong'an. In 2017, the Chinese government pointed to a stretch of farmland and wetlands about 60 miles south of Beijing and said, "We're building a city here, not a neighborhood, not a tech park, a city, from scratch, designed from day one to be smart, green, and fully integrated with digital infrastructure." Every building, every road, every underground pipeline has a digital twin. Over 5,000 5G base stations are already operational. Autonomous vehicles navigate its streets. And by early 2025, more than $115 billion had been poured into the project. 300 state-owned enterprises had moved in. The population had grown to 1.36 million. Let that sink in for a second. A city that didn't exist 8 years ago now has more digital infrastructure than most American cities that have been around for 2 centuries. That's the power of a system where the government controls land use, can relocate entire populations, and can mandate technology standards from the top down. There are no zoning fights. No environmental review lawsuits that drag on for a decade. No community board meetings where one resident blocks a project that would benefit 100,000. Now try building anything at that scale in the United States. A single highway extension in Los Angeles can take 15 years from proposal to completion. A new subway line in New York takes decades and goes billions over budget. And the idea of building an entirely new smart city on American soil? It's been proposed more than once, and it never gets past the PowerPoint. Because in the US, every inch of development runs through a gauntlet of permits, reviews, public hearings, and political negotiations that make speed structurally impossible. This isn't a failure of imagination. American engineers and urban planners know exactly what a smart city should look like. The failure is in the architecture of decision-making itself, and that leads to the deepest question this whole comparison raises: the gap nobody wants to name. By now, you've seen the comparisons. The traffic systems, the payment ecosystems, the surveillance networks, the digital government platforms, the speed of construction. And you might be thinking this is a story about technology that China simply has better tools. But that's not what's happening here. The tools are almost identical. American companies helped build the foundations of AI, cloud computing, autonomous vehicles, and smart infrastructure. The talent exists. The patents exist. The money exists. What doesn't exist is the system to deploy it. And that might be the most frustrating part of this entire story. The real gap between China's smart cities and America's isn't technological. It's structural. It's about governance. China operates on a centralized model where a single directive from the top cascades down through every province, every city, every district, with funding attached, timelines enforced, and accountability built in. The United States operates on a decentralized model where every city is an island, every mayor has a different agenda, every state legislature has a different appetite for risk, and every project has to survive the political cycle that funded it. China plans in 5-year increments and then extends those plans into 10, 20, and 50-year horizons. The United States plans in election cycles 2 years for Congress, 4 for a president, and whatever's left of a mayor's term before the next one starts campaigning. That's not a recipe for building the future. That's a recipe for maintaining the present, and the investment gap reflects it. China has funneled hundreds of billions into smart city infrastructure as a matter of national strategy. The US has offered competitive grants, piecemeal funding, and a patchwork of public-private partnerships that rarely survive a change in administration. You can't build a smart city in 4-year increments. You build it in decades, or you don't build it at all. But before you decide which model wins, you need to hear what neither side wants to admit: the price of progress on both sides. China's model is fast, it's unified, it delivers results you can measure in months instead of decades, but it comes with a cost that no efficiency metric can capture. When the government sees everything, every transaction, every commute, every face on every corner, it doesn't just optimize the city, it owns the city. And the people inside it have no say in how that power is used. There's no opt-out, no public referendum on whether cameras should go up. No court you can take your case to when the system flags you for something you didn't do. The speed that makes China's smart cities so impressive is the same speed that makes dissent impossible. And America? The freedom that slows everything down, the debates, the regulations, the community pushback, the messy democratic process, that's not a bug, it's a feature. It's what keeps a smart streetlight from becoming a surveillance tool. It's what gives you the right to say no. But that same freedom also means your roads are crumbling, your city agencies can't share a spreadsheet, and the country that invented the internet still can't build a unified digital payment system. Neither side gets to claim the high ground here. China built the future but asked its citizens to hand over the keys. America protected the keys but forgot to build the house. And the uncomfortable truth is that most of the developing world, the countries now designing their own smart cities from scratch, isn't looking at the American model for inspiration. They're looking at China's. And that should tell you everything. The signal you can't ignore. And that's the part that should keep you up at night. Because this isn't just about which country has smarter traffic lights. It's about which model of civilization gets exported to the next 100 cities being built across Africa, Southeast Asia, the Middle East, and Latin America. China isn't just building smart cities at home. It's selling the blueprint abroad. Through the Belt and Road Initiative alone, it completed over $140 billion in infrastructure contracts in just the first 9 months of 2024, with digital infrastructure making up more than a third of it. The city brain that runs Hangzhou, it's already been deployed in Kuala Lumpur. The surveillance systems built for Shenzhen, they're operating in Nairobi, Riyadh, and dozens of other cities you've never heard of. The future of how cities work, how you move, how you pay, how you're watched, how your data is used, who controls the systems that shape your daily life is being decided right now. And the country deciding it isn't debating the plan in committee. It's not waiting for the next election. It's not filing for permits. It's building it, block by block, city by city, continent by continent. The gap between China's smart cities and America's isn't just embarrassing. It's a signal that the rules of the next century are being written, and if you're not paying attention, they'll be written without you.